Hi, I'm Barry LeBrock. Anthony Davis is one of the greatest running backs in college football history, a certain legend at USC. He has a new book out. It's called If My Nikes Could Talk. I'm going to show you this again in a few minutes. Pleased now to be joined by Anthony Davis. Welcome to you. What are you up to these days?
Well, I'm in the real estate development business of what business is out there with the economy. I've been associated with Nike for years. And that's what I'm keeping my head above water doing that today.
You know, you had such a great college career. Any games stand out? I know there's so many, but any one in particular, any games or moments stand out the most?
Well, there's two moments for me. The 1974 Notre Dame game, the comeback, where we were down 24-6.
24-0 before you scored.
Absolutely. And then you look at where we were going against the number one defense team in the country, the number two offensive team in the country. And there's no way we're coming back with these guys. And I don't know what Coach McKay knew back in those years, but I still marveled at how he took the game over and how we scored 49 unanswered points in 17 football minutes to come back and win 55-24, then went on to win the national title. The second moment, of course, is Notre Dame again. When I'm 19 years old, I scored 6 touchdowns against Notre Dame. And that started off my rival with Notre Dame. So those are my two greatest moments as far as I'm concerned.
You know, you own Notre Dame. It was a situation where they were dominating everybody throughout those years, and USC played them tough, and you always stepped up huge. In that game where you came back from 24-0, you scored at the end of the first half. You brought in the ball. Then in the locker room, I understand there's a great story with Coach McKay telling the team what was going to happen next.
It's really amazing. You know, I cut my hand, and, they really couldn't stop the bleeding, and they were concerned about that. Thought maybe I cut a vein.
So you're at halftime with a bleeding hand.
Bleeding hand. And, I missed the offensive talks and the defense. You know how they go to separate.
Yeah.
And so they call us all back in the middle, and McKay's going back and forth. And he wasn't really not the rah-rah type like the Pete Carroll. He was very calm and methodic, and he was like a General Patton type. He's going back and forth. He says, gentlemen, we're not playing so well. Well, hell, we knew that. And he says, we were down like this in 1964 with Craig Furtick and Mike Garrett. If they can come back, they were down 17-3 and win 20-17. We can come back. And we all looked at each other simultaneously. You know, the man might be a good coach, but he lost his mind today. Because how are you going to come back with a number one defensive team and number two offensive team and come back like that? Right. And he just said, walked back and forth for a moment. He says, somebody has to make something happen here. And he looked at me and he says, they're going to kick the ball to AD. He's going to bring it all the way back. And I looked at him like, you know something? You really lost your mind.
You're going to bring it all the way back for a touchdown.
And that's not going to happen. And people, as simple as that, that's what he said, and it happened.
Yeah. And you scored personally 26 of the next 27 points in a matter of like seven minutes or so. What a great memory for all USC fans, and one of the great games in college football history. You know, you had so much success in college football, and then you go on a pro career. But I understand that you say that you made a mistake. If you had to do it again, you'd play baseball?
Oh, definitely.
Why?
Well, first of all, that was my first love. I was drafted professional out of high school. Mm-hmm. Willie Mays tried to get me to play professional
Wrote the forward of your book, right?
And I played, as far as I'm concerned, I played in the two greatest era of baseball and football, John McKay and Rod Dado, who pushed me. Tiger, you got to play baseball. And it was a financial move I made back in the years because what people don't know, there was more money financially in football than there was in baseball. Until the great Curt Flood, who initiated
the reserve clause, right?
The free agency clause and the fact that we can move around. I missed that by a year. And if I had to do it all over professionally, it'd definitely be baseball.
Interesting. And then after college, you didn't go the NFL route like every other great college player. Right. Why'd you choose the WFL and then later the USFL?
Well, I went to the WFL, number one, first of all, Southern California. I made it clear that I wanted to play for the Rams. Didn't happen. The New York Jets drafted me in the second round, and I just really turned down. I mean, what they were offering, I just couldn't turn it down. And the fact is, I could stay in Southern California. I could play from the hometown crowd, and I was being coached by Hall of Famer Tom Fears. And it worked out. It just didn't work out. The fact that, the big, powerful NFL versus the WFL.
Yeah.
And when the league folded, I opted to went to Canada for a while and came back to the National Football League with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which the history.
Coach McKay again.
Coach McKay. We were very familiar with each other. But the bottom line is I was part of that 0-26 team. A beat down that I took that pretty much ended my career basically because I took a hell of a beating down there with a lot of all other ball players down there.
0-14 one year, 0-12 to start the next
Absolutely.
year. You were the first player ever to wear the swoosh. This is the name of your book is If My Nikes Could Talk. I see a picture of the Nikes here. First college player and I think first pro player to wear Nikes. How did that develop?
It's really amazing. Back in 1972, playing against Oregon, we were in pregame warm-up, and this guy walks up, you know something? You guys need to try these shoes called Nike. So it was myself, Lynn Swan, Sam Cunningham. We tried them on the pregame warm-up. The technology of the shoe, and we're running this wet turf, we couldn't keep them on. We ran out of them. So McKay just said a few words, take those blank shoes off. I don't want to see them again.
Yeah. And
that was it. And, you know, I went on and had a good game then. But I think the time when they really pursued me was in the 1972 Notre Dame game where I scored 6. And a gentleman by the name of Nelson Ferris, who's still with Nike, pursued me to wear the shoe. He actually told me he developed the shoe around my running style, and we got to have you to wear the shoe.
Developed them for you.
And I was a 19-year-old kid.
Right.
I was a 19-year-old kid, very impressed with that.
Right. And by the way, when it says scored 6, he doesn't mean points. He means touchdowns against Notre Dame. You know, recruiting. It's such a cutthroat business now. Do you see a difference in the way it's done these days as opposed to the early 70s or late 60s when you were coming up?
It was tough then, but I mean, it's off the chart now. I think that some people have lost their ethics in terms of how they recruit. The money of big-time college football is out there as well, and it's very competitive. I mean, these kids today, I don't know how they handle it because everybody comes at them left and right, and some people just actually step over the line and do some things to get the upper edge, which I think is unethical.
Yeah, I see you got your USC tie, your little USC hanky there. When you arrive at the Coliseum, I've seen it before. It's like royalty coming in, man. The seas part and everybody AD. So. Speaking of AD, Pat Hayden, the new athletic director, former teammate of yours, have you spoken to him since he took the job? And what advice would you give him as he moves into that high-profile role?
Well, first of all, I talked to both of my teammates. I talked to J.K. McKay. I talked to Pat Hayden McKay. You know, I told Pat, I said, Pat, I said, in this crisis, I think you're the best man for the job. And I told them both that. And my advice to him, I said, listen, run the university, run the athletic department the way you ran the football team. He was a great field leader out there, great field general. And I think he's a man for the task. Yeah. He's got his work cut out for him, but I think he's a man who can turn it around.
Lot of problems for USC. Of course, the new sanctions ban from bowl games for 2 years now. It's like one regime does something wrong, the next regime comes in, and even the students in the next regime are paying for it. Right. Is there something wrong there with the NCAA, or do they have no other choice?
I think it's tough. I think it's very devastating for the kids there. I mean, they're paying the penalty for what went on. And a lot of kids said, listen, even though I wanted to go to USC, that's why some have transferred out. You hear some former USC recruits now playing so on. That's devastating to hear that. But these kids are trying to enjoy college football. It's unfair for them to be denied the bowl games.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something missing that if you can run the table and not go to a bowl game, it's really tough. I think the SC situation, they will feel the effects of the violations when the 10 scholarships next year take effect.
Yeah.
And
that's for years to come, 4, 5, 6 years down the road.
And that's going to be the biggest task for Pat Hayden to overcome, in my opinion, because when you take 30 scholarships away, I mean that's a lot, and that's huge in college football, especially with the Trojan tradition, playing in the Pac-10 and being a BCS team.
Yeah. Lane Kiffin takes over now for USC. How do you feel? What are your thoughts about him as a coach, and how do you feel the Trojans will do this year in particular?
Well, frankly, I mean, if you look what happened to Oregon State yesterday, and you look what happened to UCLA yesterday, I believe the Pac-10 is up for grabs, but I still think SC is a team to beat. With the Pac, but it's going to be a tough thing. I think one of the biggest tasks is going to be Oregon, of course, Stanford, and Berkeley.
If my Nikes could talk, do you enjoy writing this thing? I mean, a trip down memory lane for you, or was it like it was a labor of love, or did it kind of wear on you a little bit?
Well, you know, there's a lot of people said, you know, you should have done this book a long time ago. I says, well, first of all, nobody wants to hear my story. And one guy who convinced me to do this, a guy by the name of Leonard Wayne Enterprise and stuff, he said, you know, it's me to do the story. He said, why don't you go think about it, we can talk about it. And I decided to do it, and I'm glad I did, because I want to share the great moments with the SC fans and football fans in general, and just talk about my growth and development as a kid to where I am today.
All right. Forward by Willie Mays, and the book is called If My Nikes Could Talk by college football legend Anthony Davis. We thank him for joining us, and don't forget, FoxSports.com has you covered for all your college football needs throughout the season. For Anthony Davis, I'm Barry LeBrock. Thanks for looking in.